Thank you for joining us today. This is our third episode with the JIT Radio, and Aaliyah's unfortunately, she's not with us today. She's in New York, but we have a very special guest today, and you're going to learn a lot of tips from him. And if you don't know me, my name is Omar. I am a staff member at Just in Time, and I love to empower people. And I'll go ahead and let Stephanie introduce herself.
What's going on, guys? I'm really excited that you guys are here listening and tuning in. As some of you know, my name is Stephanie Polanco. I am interning at Just in Time, and I just love being able to be there and help others and just bring a new insight to things that a lot of people don't know about. And I'm really excited we have Louie here today, so I'm going to go ahead and let Louie introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Louie Titcomb. I am currently a account manager at a software company, and I'm really excited just about Just in Time's programs and things like that they offer. I'm currently an influencer and also a lived experience coach with them as well.
Woo-hoo.
And so, hey, I'm really excited just to help out today, just with our financial conversation, just because that was actually one of the programs that Just in Time kind of hooked me on, and it really brought me to Just in Time's programs that they offer, and I'm really excited just to speak on my experience today.
So how did you hear about Just in Time's financial fitness program?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I was going to SDSU. One of my friends who was also a part of the Guardian Scholars program, which is a scholarship program for foster youth and people who are under guardianship. She had introduced me to Just in Time, and she was talking about this program called College Bound, and she was interested in their other services like financial fitness and pathways. And so I had found out that they offered a financial fitness program, and I was really eager to start my financial journey with accomplishing some of my goals, like purchasing a house and, purchasing my first car, and really just learning the fundamentals of finance.
So when you first found out about Just in Time and you went into the office for youth coming in, how did you feel when you walked in?
Yeah, when I first walked in, I was a little timid, honestly. I didn't know these people. It was a new program, and I just knew that I had a friend that was already connected, and so I was really excited to just explore the opportunities as to what kind of resources that they had.
I know a lot of us, like, coming into new services or, like, going into new programs sometimes can be a little bit, like you said, intimidating. I remember when I first walked in, I found it super uncomfortable, honestly, because it's like all these people we don't know. But the great thing about Just in Time is there's a lot of friendly faces.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really is helpful about our program.
I would agree.
We're all very kind.
The first person who I remember interacting with was Roche. And it was this woman I didn't know. I walked in the office and she gave me a big old hug. And ever since then, I'm still, connected because of her, I feel like. So just seeing her at all the events and involved really keeps me around in the community.
Yeah. So what would you tell someone that is nervous about stepping into the office?
I would say don't be afraid. The community within Just in Time is very open arms, and they're very warm, friendly, and they're just eager to help out others. And so I would say just give it a shot, walk on in, come in. Don't be afraid to say hi, grab a snack, and just sit down and start networking.
So
Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here, and I do want to shift a little bit on a financial component. Like, were you always like financially savvy? Like, share a little bit about your journey, like with money, and like how it's like. I feel like now you're like super focused on money, and how did you get there?
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm in a little bit of a rut right now. So they say money comes and goes. There's always ebbs and flows to everything. But I think in the beginning, when I was going to college, I was just really eager to just hurry up and finish my degree so that way I can ultimately make more money. And so, for me, I had always just had this dream of buying a house, and I wasn't going to let anything, in the way of me attaining that goal. And that's something that, I feel like, especially as foster youth and people who are homeless youth or under guardianship, is housing's really important, having that safe space of your own. And so, yeah, for me, I just, always try to keep a positive mindset out of finance, and just was really hungry in trying to get to that next level, ultimately, get to that next tax bracket, as you should say.
So one of your ultimate goals was to purchase a home, which you have purchased, right?
Yeah, I purchased it after college.
So tell us a little bit about what did you buy? How did that? did you have to save a lot of money? Did you have a program that supported you? Like,
The way it all started, my aunt is a real estate agent, and she, kind of instilled some of the principles in me. And her daughter was in property management at the time, and I just remember asking them, like, hey, what does it take to buy a house? And my cousin used to tell me, she would say, you just need really, income. You need 2 years of proof of income, basically, and then 2 years of credit history, as well as 2 different forms of credit. And so that could be like either a loan, or that could be, that could be any type of loan. So car loans, student loans, or it could also be, credit cards. So just 2 different types. And so in addition to that, you don't need 10 or 20% down. Ultimately, I only ended up putting 3% down on my condo. And it's in Hillcrest, actually, which is a lively neighborhood in San Diego. I got really lucky with it, but it just took a lot of discipline for me to save up, that 3%. And especially here in San Diego, when I had bought 3 years ago, it was right before COVID. So I got in right before the houses started, increasing in value. Yeah. And so I'm really blessed. And so I'm super thankful for that. But, just a part of that process, I was able to find the different resources, within Just in Time. They had Financial Fitness, which is ultimately a program where they will kind of help you, create a budget. They'll pair you with an advisor who will also, help you with your budget. And then also too, like I said, just that discipline and consistency. So making sure that you are taking your money, putting it into a separate account, maybe it could be a completely separate account than your current checking account, and just ultimately kind of hiding it from yourself in a way and letting it stack up. And the financial fitness program offered by Just in Time, they will match, those funds. So first it starts with, I think, $250, then $500, then $1,000, and then I think it's $2,000. So ultimately you end up having about $9,500 by the end of this program.
Which is really great. A lot of us could use that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you talked about discipline, so I'm just curious to know, like, what are some things you had to sacrifice, and what was the biggest challenge about being disciplined? Because being financially fit, like, one of the main components is not spending on things that you shouldn't.
Yeah. So I really like to, separate the needs versus wants list. And so I think we always have, these wants, right? So that new shirt that might be expensive, that new designer, piece, or whatever it might be, that fancy car. And, just getting back to the basics, right? Like food, housing, your utilities, as well as, your health and wellness. So just trying to not, spend a boatload of money on those things, and just, like I said, getting back to the basics. So just focusing on that initial budget, and just trying to figure out, like, okay, how much does my house or my rent cost me currently? And so, yeah, just really just staying disciplined in those areas, and just trying not to overspend each month, and essentially hiding that money from yourself. So staying consistent with it over time is only going to help you tuck away more money.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you focus on the basics. And there's a coach within our Just in Time community. His name is Marty Goodman. I don't know if you've probably met him before. I think,
I worked
he's your
with
coach.
Marty Goodman.
He used to do like this presentation in our College Bound event. And he said that people who are wealthy do the basics very well. So like if it's just writing the list of things, like I could only afford $200 of groceries a month, and that's what you stick to, right?
Yeah.
I can only buy 1 pair of shoes a year, and that's what you stick to. So like you said, just doing the basics and being disciplined about.
It's really sticking to it, because you can have all these tools, right? But if you're not disciplined, and if you don't tell yourself, like, dude, if I overspend, I'm not going to have enough for like the things that I want in the future, which is a really big thing. And I think it takes a level of maturity to reach that. So I really admire the strength and discipline that you had, because I know sometimes I will go over my budget because I'm like, oh, I just want that shirt, or I want those shoes or something, So I think it's really great, and it's really admirable. And for those of you listening, if you notice, the biggest thing is just being consistent with your discipline and sticking to things. At least that's what I'm picking up from Louie. So
Yeah, and I mean, it's okay to treat yourself once in a while. Just don't splurge, I would say.
totally.
And I feel like, just making sure that obviously your income is matching, what you can afford.
Yeah.
And so a big thing that's talked about by, financial advisors and just people who are creating podcasts like this, right, is this theory of living within your means. And so even if you start making more money, and like I said, I'm not doing the best financially right now. I'm doing okay, right? I'm a homeowner. However, I feel like, after I got my degree, I started making more money. I went and purchased my house. I achieved my goal, right? And then I purchased a luxury car. And the lesson that I'm learning right now is that ultimately you don't need the luxury car. So I sold my luxury car actually, because I just I would rather feel more confident, in my daily purchases and, not have to struggle just for this, super fancy car. And so live within your means and, try not to obviously overspend once you do get to that point if you are making more money.
And also, I think I've heard actually, someone's told me that before. So a lot of the times we start to live off our current paycheck that we have, but then we go to another place and we're like, okay, well, now I have room for this, I have room for that. And sometimes that's where we kind of mess up. Like you said, we end up like overindulging in all these things because we think we can afford it, but then we're back in the same rut we were because of our payments.
Yep, exactly.
So.
Well, you talked about splurging, and I want to kind of explain that and kind of give a picture to that to our audience so that they can probably identify that if they are in that situation. Mm-hmm. So I think a good example of splurging is like you party hard Friday, Saturday, and then you spend all your money, and then throughout the week you're just eating cup of noodles or you have like no shampoo, right? Because you just spent all your money. So I think it'll be helpful to like identify different ways that you can avoid different types of splurging. So one thing that I do consistently is like if friends have parties or they have get-togethers or I have family coming over, I want to treat them. So I always like spend extra on like eating out. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my like debilities flaws or weaknesses where if I have a family or a friend that's visiting, I want to treat them well, and that I do end up spending a lot more than I should, and that's something that like I need to work on. So if anyone else is doing that, like I'm in the same page as you guys. Like it's for me, it's still challenging. Like I had my nephew over last night, and I paid for his recording studio session. I paid for his dinner, and like I don't mind doing that, but now I gotta like make up that money, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like it's one of the challenges like of splurging. I don't spend like a lot of like clothing or this and that, but when it comes to food, I do over splurge.
Yeah, I have the same issue. Sometimes I'm too tired when I get out or I have a lot going on, so I'm like, it's just easier to pick something up on the way. And really, it's like it takes just as long to cook a cute or like short meal at home, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's also my issue.
Or meal prepping also helps.
Yeah,
so
that's
like,
true.
Totally. And if you're one of those people that get scared to meal prep because you're like, oh, it's going to go bad, instead of leaving it in your fridge, put it in the freezer because you can save it longer.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that right there, meal prepping, I mean, that's one of the things that I did throughout college. I worked at a restaurant, and I was able to save a lot of money just, by storing meals and not eating out. I remember there were some times where I would literally be at the grocery store or at, the gas station or whatever, and I would be looking at this item, whether it was like a candy bar, a bag of chips, whatever it might be in that moment, I would mentally take note and I would just, think to myself, is this going to support my long-term goal? And, sometimes you got to talk yourself off that ledge of buying that thing that you don't need or want, I should say.
That's interesting because you're like when you're shopping, you're taking an extra effort to like think twice about an item. Like you don't just dump it in your cart. You're like, do I actually need this?
Yep.
How is it going to benefit me? Is it within my means?
Yep.
So like again, if you're shopping, and this is an interesting thing. Food for less, if you know it or not, like Costco might do this too. Their carts are big because they want you to load it up. So like when you're shopping, you're not even thinking about it. Oh, it still looks like it's empty. Like I could still put more in my cart. So maybe next time you shop, you just take like a basket and like whatever fits in the basket. Because you're not gonna finish most of the food within a week. So maybe you just shop for like what you can afford for the week or what you need for the week. Anyway.
Food for Less definitely has a good marketing strategy because I never thought about that. Another thing that I think is very helpful is a list.
Yes, I was going to say that.
If you go to the store, make sure that you write a list and you only stick to what's on your list, because sometimes you'll like maybe go into the dessert aisle and you see the Twinkies and you're like, wait, that's not on my list or whatever, you know. But that's like an example. So like that's something that I use that I find helpful. Is I make a list and I also like compartmentalize it by department. Mm-hmm. So if I'm in like the grocery section, I know that I'm only getting those things, or, you know, different stuff like that. So
even when you're creating your list, you can look at the deals, right? I know like Vaughn's has the clip couponer. Yeah. Creating your list based off of the deals, you know, that's another good way to just save money, and even price comparing. So looking at, you know, different stores and what the prices are before you go.
You can get really scientific with it. So like, I was just going to say, like, maybe not writing it on a piece of paper, but instead doing it on your phone, because it might be products that you buy regularly, and like, you can even put the price after, like, oh, I know this costs $2.97.
Yeah.
And if you see it cheaper, like, oh, that's the one I'm going to buy. It tastes the same.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what else? Walmart. If you use the Walmart app, so those of you that do your grocery shopping at Walmart, you have in your history a list of items that you've purchased, so that way you could also go based off that if you do something regularly.
Sometimes buying in bulk too. I mean, if you know that you need paper towels and, you know, you're willing to spend more just on a couple more, you might get a better discount or a better rate, you know, per item. And
it's also okay to shop great value, guys. Okay, don't feel embarrassed or ashamed. Save your coins. I think it's a good idea.
That's true. I mean, especially when it comes to, like, they call that superior versus inferior goods, right? The name brand versus, you know, just like you said, great value brand. You don't need the, you know, super expensive Bounty paper towels all the time.
Not at all.
Sometimes there is a taste difference. Sometimes
depending.
In Oreos for sure. I've noticed.
Another thing I was gonna try to talk about is sometimes when you're like struggling to get to financial stability, you kind of give up. You're like, you know, I'm not gonna get out of this, so like I just gotta continue like the way I'm living and keep adding to my credit card. So like, what can we talk about? What advice can we give to someone who may be in that situation where like their paycheck may not cut it for the week or for the month, and like they're just, you know, I want to be able to provide some hope. So what would you do in that situation?
Okay, so for the first thing that I thought about was Live Well San Diego coming to Just in Time. For those who their income may not cover their essential groceries, or maybe you have other bills that you need to pay, like your car insurance, your rent, health insurance, whatever it is that you need to pay. So Live Well San Diego, they're under the umbrella of like SNAP, CalFresh.
Yes.
So honestly, I know some of us sometimes are afraid to like go that route, but if you really need to, do it. It doesn't matter. There's no shame. And if it helps you save money and advance in life, then great. And when you don't need it anymore, all you have to do is let them know.
I mean, especially that's something that I am currently working on is, you know, credit card debt. And for me, that's why I got rid of my luxury cars, because I had some debt that I needed to handle before, you know, purchasing another car. And so I think the biggest thing that I'm feeling right now is that the stress of that debt is going to cause a little bit more stress in your day to day than it would be just to, you know, cut that, you know, thing that you don't need. And so I say just make a plan ultimately and just address it head on. You know, focus on trying to balance your expenses versus your income, and just make sure that you are, you know, putting more than the minimum, because ultimately that interest on the credit card, you know, that's how they will make their money. And that's the whole point of credit cards, right? Is that they're trying to make money off of your purchases. And so even if you're purchasing groceries for $500 and if you don't spend it at 16%, you know, that $500 is now almost $600. Just developing and maintaining a positive money mindset. So just, you know, if you are in that rut, change your mindset around, you know, how you're thinking about money, and stay positive and knowing that you can get yourself out of whatever situation that you're in. And just recognize that every financial situation is fixable no matter what. So as long as you know, take baby steps towards, you know, that goal or that, you know, debt, just acknowledge it, and just accept that even the small steps add up to progress, even if it's slow. I think there's a concept that I think about a lot, and it's called 1% better each day. So, like I said, that 1% may not seem big right now, but over, time, it's gonna add up, and it's gonna help your situation ultimately in the long run.
Yeah, because sometimes you want to see a big change, right? You want to see your credit card get like cut in half, but it's not about. It's about doing the small steps, and then that are going to accumulate to like eradicate whatever, or maybe it's like build up too. Like we're not just talking about eradicating or eliminating, but it's also about like little small amounts that you're saving each month. In the long run, is going to be a lot of money that you didn't have to spend, or now that you have if there's a rainy day or there's something that comes up, you have that little pocket of money you can reach into. So it goes both ways. Either you're trying to eliminate debt, or you're trying to increase some savings. So every little bit counts.
Agreed. I mean, some other things that we could talk about are assets ultimately. I know.
Tell me more about that.
So I think, just when I was younger too, like developing a retirement plan, ultimately, that's something that we all have to think about. And even some of my friends nowadays, they're, they might be in their 30s, they might be a little bit older. They don't have a retirement plan, but it's okay. I mean, but the thing that I want to leave with you is that starting younger is going to help you, much faster later.
Totally.
And so, going back to that compound interest, having, that interest work for you rather than against you, the sooner that you're able to put money away into stocks, bonds, within that IRA or within a brokerage account, that can also really help set you up for the future as well.
That's a good point. I'm glad that you mentioned that because, yes, the sooner you start saving for your retirement, the quicker it'll build up.
Yep.
So maybe for those of you who are listening and have a full-time job, because this is a benefit that comes with having a full-time job, that they will have a 401k or some type of retirement plan for their employees, and they will match whatever you put in. Yes. Yep. So if you don't have a retirement plan set up and you are a full-time employee, I would go to your HR or your like whatever department you need to go to and ask, hey, how do I sign up to our retirement plan here at our job? I want to start adding to that. Yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. That's a great point because some people may not even know that their company has the opportunity. So like you just ask, and then if they do, like take advantage of that because like you said, percentage of interest will add up, and then not on top of that, they might even add more on top of what you're putting in. So your company might add more money into your own retirement account.
So I have a question. So did you get your retirement plan through your job, or did you do research on it? Or do you know if those that are not full-time but are living or working a part-time job, how would they be eligible to get a retirement plan, or are they even eligible?
Yeah, so you can actually start before you obtain a job full-time. There's the 401k, which is what Omar was mentioning, but there's also something called an IRA, and there's traditional and Roth. So that's going to depend on the taxes. So a Roth IRA is an account that you can get through like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, or Vanguard. Those are some of the popular ones. But ultimately with the Roth, what's happening is from your paycheck, you're already taxed, right? And so when you put that money inside of a Roth account, that money will not be taxed later on. So the benefit of that is that you can purchase assets within that Roth, and then those assets will grow. So for example, I had purchased Tesla before COVID, and, Tesla ultimately grew. And going back to what Omar said is that emotional tie to, your situation, just know that money will always fluctuate. And so there's the Roth, which is going to set you up better later because when that money grows and you go to pull it out, it's not going to be taxed. But on a, traditional IRA, that one is going to be taxed, but the benefit of it is that you can take that money and get it taken out from your taxes at the end of the year since it has not been taxed, if that makes sense.
So if you do have a retirement plan, the goal is to keep it there until you retire and keep it there. If not, you're going to get a penalty. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I didn't want to discourage those who didn't have a full-time job. You can still set up a retirement account. It just might be a 401k or the traditional retirement accounts that companies have when you work full-time.
Yeah,
definitely look into them because it seems like they're both really great investments. The Roth sounds really interesting, and I think that we probably don't have enough time to even really do a deep dive into that the way that I would love to know more about it, but I definitely think it's something that our youth and our participants should look into.
But I was also going to say, like,
Agree.
we may be saying things that are like over the head of some people, because like
Yeah.
Roth IRA, like what does that even mean? Interest here and there. So that, I mean, that's what financial fitness is for. So you guys can like learn about these things. So if you guys are interested in learning more about the details of finances and retirement accounts and savings accounts, sign up to Financial Fitness here at Just in Time. That's where Louie got connected and he got hooked up with the almost 9K or maybe the 9K through Financial Fitness and graduating that program.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what we were like, how we started the podcast, where like you may be intimidated to go to the office, right? So there's a lot of things that can intimidate us, but we need to be courageous, disciplined, and just take the next leap into like advancing our skills, our knowledge. So I encourage those who are listening and have listened to this up to this point, is that if you are afraid of like signing up to a service or coming to the office, like don't be afraid. Like Louis is a great example of what can happen if you stick to it and you're courageous enough to meet more than one staff member.
Yeah, and I mean, don't take all this information from us. You know, go do your own research, connect with other people, and something even now that I do, like I mentioned, I talk to my friends about finances as well. And so I think just keeping the conversation going and engaging your resources and just learning as much as you can about finances is, you know, it's important. The world is your oyster. Ultimately, you can do anything.
So 1, find what works for you. 2, be disciplined, stick to it, and stay consistent. That's what I have picked up from this. And I really want to say thank you for being here. Everything that you've had to say is amazing. It's super knowledgeable, and your story is really admirable.
Thank you.
It's been really great.
Yes, I can't thank you enough. And I hope this is not the last time you come in and talk to us. Maybe we talk about some other stuff. But no, I thank you for bringing it back in and bringing the highlights of the podcast. The discipline was a huge like nugget. Also, like, you know, sticking to the basics was another one. And I mean, you can listen to it again and just keep it on replay. So it gets drilled in our minds to save money.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. I mean, I enjoy working with the community and I enjoy sharing my story. And, you know, I think that we can all learn something from each other. And so, if there's one thing to learn from me, you know, like I said, just live within your means and, keep that continuous learning going and don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in again. This has been really informative and engaging. I hope you guys had a good time. We'll see you on the next one.
Toodaloo.
Yay, bye.
Thank you.